Will the feed explode today? Is the sound going to cut out seconds into the show? Will my PC burst into flames and burn the duct tape studios down to the ground? I don't know. I don't have the answer. But one thing I can tell you, the Daily Dope is in the air. Hi, everybody. Jeff McAleer once again. I am your host for the Daily Dope, as well as the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. Either you're watching live or you'll be watching this sometime after December 13th, maybe later tonight. But I've got loads and loads of stuff going on today. A few things I wanted to cover first before I jump into the news is there was just a disaster yesterday with the feed doing the stream, and I'll get to that in a moment. But yesterday was the first day of Hanukkah, and I did want to wish our friends out there of the Jewish faith very happy Hanukkah season. And I am certainly not going to break into the dreidel song, which for some strange reason tends to be Christians, but I was going to say non-Jewish people seem to suddenly burst into when they wish somebody happy Hanukkah. I have seen it. It is bizarre. And to me, that's pretty rude. That would be as if someone who was Jewish wished a Christian Merry Christmas and then started singing, say, Away in a Manger or Little Drummer Boy with like a Yiddish accent. Never saw anybody do that. So I'm not doing the dreidel song, but happy Hanukkah, everybody. Anyway, as far as yesterday's show, everything's set up, everything's good to go. I start the stream, all of a sudden there's no sound. I'm thinking, what's going on here? And sure enough, Windows 10 Professional once again is the culprit. And it seems like every single day I have to go and change the sound settings. I'm not going to get too detailed, but I have to delete the drivers for the virtual cables, reinstall the drivers once again, and go from there. And it was just a disaster. It did a critical update just as I started the show at 2, and my Windows settings are set to not do any sort of automatic update without my approval, but it's Microsoft. They don't care what you want. Just a disaster. Just drove me nuts. So I ended up not even doing a show because it took 20 minutes for the update, and then I thought, well, okay, if the sound's gonna work, let's check it out. Well, of course it did, and I had to play around, and by the time I finally got it working again, it was like 3:30, and I was certainly in no mood to do the show. I really wasn't. I was really mad, and I'm a pretty easygoing guy. But when I get ticked off, it is not a pleasant sight. So anyway, hopefully today we will not have huge issues with the stream, because day before was actually pretty good. Monday was fairly error-free, I guess I would say. But anyway, let's move on to the news. Yesterday, there really wasn't much news going on, and it is that time of year, so I can kind of understand that. But there's also a few other things I'm going to mention after the news, why I really didn't have anything noteworthy, I thought, to share. But I do today. And first off is another new release from the fine folks over at Z-Man Games. Majesty for the Realm is now available. The competition for the crown has begun. Your rivals are already plotting ways to establish the wealthiest realm and claim the throne. But you know the best way to gain the power you seek is by enlisting the aid of your citizens. From the humble Miller, are they talking about my best friend Elliott Miller? To the elegant noble, wait a second. Well, I guess, yeah, Elliott's fairly humble. Anyway, to the elegant noble, all of your loyal subjects will play a decisive role in your new kingdom. Rally the people and seize the crown. From acclaimed designer Marc Andre, Majesty places you in a struggle for sovereignty during the Middle Ages. To win the crown, you must make use of the special skills your subjects bring with them to generate wealth and grow your kingdom. But rallying the people to your cause is no easy task. Your rivals constantly threaten to win over the best citizens before you can. I hate when that happens. You must adapt your strategy and outwit your opponents if you want to sit on the throne. Over the course of the game, you select a character and add it to the matching location in your kingdom, unlocking that location's special abilities. As you do, your realm will gradually take on a character of its own. Will you build a jovial kingdom filled with taverns and breweries? Or will you build your army and invade your opponent's lands? Well, that's quite a wide range. Whoever can build the best group of citizens will win the day. In Majesty for the realm, each of the citizens you select contributes to the realm in their own way. They might generate new wealth for your kingdom, attack other players, or even cause other players to gain points. Beyond their individual contributions, though, characters can also interact with the characters already on the table in some powerful combinations. Adding a Miller to your kingdom, for an example, earns you money for both the Miller. Way to go, Elliott. Way to go. Make some dough there, man. And each Miller already in your kingdom is, I guess, obviously going to add additional wealth. Constantly pursuing Millers, then, is an increasingly lucrative proposition. Beyond this, some characters work in harmony with others to create some powerful combinations as well. For example, innkeepers generate wealth from other innkeepers and any brewers you have in your kingdom. The Milwaukee Brewers are hanging out in your kingdom? Okay. Plan your strategy and choose your characters carefully to unlock their full potential. The crown is available to whoever can prove their worth. Raise your banners and make your claim in Majesty for the realm, available on sale now. Or I should say it's on sale now. I don't mean to say it's available and on sale. Anyway, all right, I see the cats are getting a little crazy over here. So you might hear them kind of going at it. Always something. Majesty for the Crown is for 2 to 4 players, ages 7 and up, and plays in around 20 to 30 minutes and does carry an MSRP of $39.99. Sweet, pretty cool. 7 and up? There aren't a whole lot of images available from Z-Man Games as far as this title, so I don't know. I don't know. It didn't strike me as a game that would be for like ages 7, maybe 10. I don't know, but I don't know much about the game. Just sharing the news. Anyway, my next news piece is going to be pretty popular with the Doctor Who fans out there because Doctor Who, I'm sorry, wrong news piece. It's Cubicle 7, folks. Yeah, it's always something. Always something. Got it in the wrong order. Anyway, Cubicle 7 Entertainment has a new bundle of holding that's available. There's 2, actually, bundles of holding that just launched, I want to say day before yesterday. So you've got about a month. That's usually how the bundles work, to be able to save. And if you are a fan of Tolkien role-playing, this is certainly something you're going to want to check out. Here is the dope from Cubicle 7 and Bundle of Holding. Lore Master, returning once more from the Wilderlands, the Fellowship of the Ring has again revived their October 2015 The One Ring bundle, featuring the One Ring role-playing game from Sophisticated Games and Cubicle 7 Entertainment, based on J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, thus the name The One Ring. If you missed its 2 previous runs, this revised collection brings you everything you need to run a complete tabletop role-playing game campaign that brilliantly evokes Tolkien's unique vision. And this time, there's a new companion offer with many recent supplements. Hooray! For just $14.95, you get the first offer's starter collection, which has a retail value of $45, with designer Francesco Nepitello's complete RPG The One Ring, and its companion Loremaster's Screen and Lake Town Guide. And they are DRM-free PDFs. If you pay more than the threshold price of $30.23, honestly, I do not know where they ever get like these pennies and stuff as far as the pricing. If you go over the threshold of $19.43. Anyway, all right, enough from you two cats over there. Gosh. Pinky's the noisy one. You're probably hearing the whack, whack. Yes, go to sleep, Pinky. Yeah. Gotta love it. Hey, at least I've got a couple of assistants down here, I guess. Anyway, if you pay more than the threshold price of $30.23, you'll level up and also get this offer's entire bonus collection with 4 more supplements worth an additional $84. The Darkening of Mirkwood, Gareth Ryder Hanrahan's massive, months-long campaign against an ever-growing shadow. The Heart of the Wild, the companion Gazetteer, I always hear that pronounced differently, for the Darkening of Mirkwood, presents extensive details of the entire Wilderland region. Rivendell, expand your campaign with this regional guide to Eastern Eredor and the last homely house of Elrond. And Tales from the Wilderland, 7 complete scenarios set in Mirkwood, the Misty Mountains, Erebor, Lake Town, and other locales across, obviously enough, the Wilderland. Play each separately or combine them as an epic campaign spanning years. This is a new chance to get this huge collection of the One Ring worth $129 for a bargain price. Then there is also the One Ring Bundle plus 2 that has 5 recent The One Ring supplements. Anyway, here's the dope about that. If you haven't obtained our resurrected October 2015 One Ring Bundle featuring the One Ring role-playing game, yeah, okay, yes, we know all that. Anyway, the One Ring Bundle plus 2 is an all-new companion offer of recent major role-playing supplements for the One Ring. And yes, it's strange to think the One Ring could need a plus 2 bonus. For just, once again, $14.95, you get both supplements in this offer's starter collection. Once again, they are DRM-free PDFs. You get the Adventure's Companion Player Guide and Journeys and Maps. And if you pay more than the offer's threshold price of $25.75, you level up and get the entire bonus collection with Horse Lords of Rohan, Erebor, the Lonely Mountain, and the Ruins of the North scenario collection. Keep in mind, 10% of your payment after the payment gateway fees are always donated to a worthy charity. And with the One Ring offers, both of them, the designated charity is Doctors Without Borders. So that is pretty cool. The One Ring is really neat, and I should point out that some folks will probably want to kind of take a peek as far as, because we have Adventures in Middle Earth now. So with Adventures in Middle Earth, you're looking at, it's really the One Ring ported over to 5e. And once again, fantastic stuff, especially for, obviously, for folks playing 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. But one of the really cool things is, with the PDFs and that, it's not all that difficult for a clever dungeon master to port over the supplements that have not been released for Adventures in Middle Earth. Uh, I don't know if John and Dominic at Cubicle 7 would be real happy with me saying that, because of course they've got all these supplements that are coming over, that are porting over from the One Ring to Adventures in Middle Earth. But I mean, yeah, you can save big. You can get a bunch of goodies for the One Ring and save loads and loads of dough. Anyway, let's get back to the Doctor Who story I was going to tell you. The Doctor Who news. Coming, actually, I shouldn't say it's coming. It's out now, is Doctor Who Time of the Daleks, and it's available from Gale Force 9. That's right. Now you and your friends can each take on the role of one of the Doctor's incarnations and do battle with his greatest enemies, the Daleks. Although I have to admit, I'm a big fan of Doctor Who. And I got into Doctor Who when Tom Baker was the current Doctor. And I have seen, I like John Pertwee as the Doctor, the third. I like pretty much all of them until I like Sylvester McCoy, the actor, and he seems like a super nice guy, but those Doctor Who episodes aren't too great. Anyway, I was going to say, I don't know how many of the Doctors are included in this game. So I do know that the first Doctor's there, and David Tennant's run as the Doctor is in there. I'm going to take a guess. We also got Peter Capaldi and Matt Smith, but I don't know. And you're actually seeing some of the miniatures that are included in the game. But I would take a wild stab that Gale Force 9 is probably not going to include every Doctor just yet. Come on, there's got to be additional supplements, right? Anyway, as far as Doctor Who, the new Doctor Who title, here is the dope from Gale Force 9. Exterminate, they muttered about their sacred hatred, the oncoming storm. Wait a second, Daleks mutter? No, Daleks scream at the top. Well, they don't have lungs. They scream exterminate. They don't mutter. Exterminate. Anyway, their creator had a plan to make the Daleks great again, a plan to turn all their defeats into victories, a plan to remove one variable that has always interfered with the master plan. The Doctor must be erased from time itself. Ever wanted to be the Doctor? Travel in time and space, meet companions, and have adventures? In Doctor Who, Time of the Daleks, you do just that, with every player picking a Doctor and trying to thwart the Daleks' master plan of erasing the Doctor from history. Do you have what it takes to fill a Time Lord's shoes? Join us on an adventure in space and time with a game that is bigger on the inside. The game is semi-cooperative. Either one player/Doctor wins, or the Daleks win and all the players/Doctors lose. The game is for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, takes about 2 hours to play, and the MSRP is $50. I have to say, I was a little bit surprised that the MSRP is $50 on this, because for one, it is a licensed property, so that usually tacks on some additional cost, but seems pretty fair. Here's the one problem that I have is there really isn't any news or information about the game itself. What I read from the teleprompter, obviously enough, that's it. That's all I know about the game. And I'm a little surprised, because it'd be one thing if it was just a little company that came out with a Kickstarter that had funded, but Gale Force 9 is a fairly good-sized company, and this is a Doctor Who game, for crying out loud. So I don't know, but I will have some more to say about things like this when I finish with the news. Now, of course, I'm sure plenty of folks out there are watching because they want to see the unboxing of GMT Games American Revolution tri-pack. So that means it's Wargame Wednesday, and I'm going to feature Wargames specifically on Wednesday. And I do want to share some news that's really aimed directly at the grognards out there. And it's a Kickstarter that's currently going on from my friend Mark H. Walker and Flying Pig Games. And the Kickstarter tackles the largest tank battle in the history of warfare. Oh yes, I'm talking about Kursk. Or some people pronounce it Kursk. I always thought it was Kursk. Like there's an H in there, but it's not a word in the city's name. Anyway, to be more specific, the game is Platoon Commander Deluxe Kursk. And allow me to share the dope from Flying Pig Games as I bring up some more info. Kursk, many historians believe it was the turning point of World War II. Kursk, witness to the largest tank battle of the entire war. Kursk, the end of the myth of German invincibility. Although the history is important, what is more so is an immersive, fast-moving, compelling game that lets you, yes, you, relive the history. That's what you get with Platoon Commander Deluxe, Kursk. Designed by Mark H. Walker and David K. Van Hoos, Platoon Commander Deluxe, or otherwise known as PCD-K, is the glorious port of Tiny Battle's well-known Platoon Commander system to Flying Pig's big box, mounted map, large counter method of game publishing. Each game includes 2 mounted 11-inch by 17-inch geomorphic maps and 4 sheets of thick, 2mm thick. Wow, these counters are so easy to pick up thick. Why haven't Wargames been like this forever thick? 1-inch square counters. There are Tiger tanks, Panther tanks, MK4 tanks, T-34/76 tanks, KV-1 tanks, Su-152 assault guns, infantry, rifle, guards, pioneers, submachine gun, mortar batteries, Stukas, IL-2s, and more. Platoon Commander Deluxe Kursk is a system that grognards and newbies alike can enjoy. The counters are large, easy to read, and beautifully illustrated. There's no jungle of numbers the way through. The range at which a unit can fire is indicated by the color of the icon behind the attack factor. Although gamers need not fiddle with unit facing, simple rules account for flanking and fire, and infantry isn't forgotten either. Platoon Commander Deluxe uses a unique system in which infantry assaults from adjacent hexes, allowing commanders to concentrate overwhelming force at a critical point, and even conduct flank attacks. Flank attacks. And woe be to the Tiger platoon caught unsupported in the midst of a city by a Russian rifle platoon. I've been playing platoon level wargames since I first discovered Panzer Leader, and Platoon Commander Deluxe is a system that I have always wanted to play. I hope you like it too. Obviously, I'm going to take a guess that that is coming from Mark H. Walker. So what do you think, folks? Shall we take a quick peek? Well, I shouldn't say quick. It's about 5 minutes long. Let's take a look at the Kickstarter.
On the 5th of July, 1943, near Kursk, 461 kilometers southwest of Moscow, German forces launched their last strategic offensive on the Eastern Front. The Germans would attack across a 250-kilometer wide front to pinch off the Soviet Kursk salient. The attack smashed against a well-prepared Red Army and led to an extensive loss of men and equipment on both sides, but ensured that the Soviet Red Army enjoyed the strategic initiative of the remainder of the war. In the Platoon Commander Deluxe, Kursk, you command the tanks and men of Germany and Russia in a fast-playing, easy-to-understand skirmishes that recreate the many tense firefights of the battle. Platoon Commander Deluxe is a platoon-level game played using large, colourful 1-inch counters, representing Tigers, Panthers, Panzer Grenadiers, KV-1 tanks, Guards infantry, and much more. Richly illustrated mounted geomorphic game boards represent a fictitious landscape over which the units do battle in woods, rivers, hills, and built-up areas, offering players tactical challenges. The game is played through turns with an uncommon sequence of play. a sequence of play perhaps unlike any you have gamed in the past. Units fight using a unique color-coded range system. No squinting at super and subscripts here. The information is readily available on the large counters and easy to understand for newcomers. Combat is nothing if not chaotic, and Kursk's action cards mimic that chaos. You never know when the opponent might call an artillery strike. You never know when a unit has truly finished firing. This is not, however, a card-driven game, but rather card-assisted, a distinct difference. The focus is on the action on the game board, not the cards in your hand. Here's how you play. Each game scenario or story sets the number of turns to be played. On each turn, the opponents roll for initiative, a roll that can be influenced by the player's tactical choices. Once the initiative is set, play proceeds. First, the cardboard commanders attempt to rally any disrupted units. Units in the same hex with an aid marker receive a bonus. Then it is time to have some fun. In the highly interactive fire phase, players alternate attacks until all the eligible tanks, guns, and men have had their chance at the enemy. Combat is simple. The colour underneath the attack factor dictates how far a unit can fire. The amount of firepower, less the target's terrain and armour, dictate the column consulted on the combat results table. Simple, fast, fun, but tactical and realistic as well. In the following movement phase, you no longer alternate activating units. First one side and then the other moves all their units, stopping only if taken under fire. A potential setback that occurs if the enemy has either an unfired unit with a line of sight to the moving unit or a special action card. After movement, unfired units may assault adjacent enemy units. We said adjacent, right? Yeah, unlike most tactical games, assaults take place from adjacent hexes, allowing the attacker to not only mass his troops, but also outflank the defender. Furthermore, assaults alternate, just like ranged combat. Hence, a defender who has initiative for the turn can launch a spoiling attack. Of course, you decide when to move your units, fire your units, and who to assault with your units, but your influence doesn't stop there. You also control the battle with your placement of the aid and focus markers, as well as your judicious use of action cards. Action cards can be used for a variety of actions. Depending on the card and assisted gameplay, it provides a fog of war aspect to the game as both sides' true capability is unknown. The two aid and focus markers represent the commander's intent of the battlefield. Whether it be additional ammo, medical supplies, heavy weapons, the markers themselves and their die roll modifiers, they all represent the commander's desire to succeed on this hill, riverbank or woodline now. The markers can be placed, moved or intensified each turn, providing either a morale or attack bonus to the units in its hex, or even change the turn's initiative. Tense scenarios, easy to handle command and control, the fact you'll never know which action cards you'll have at hand, provide players with a whole lot of fun at each turn. It is widely disputed who won the Battle of Kursk, but no one disputes its significance. Now you can relive the fight and command the troops. The Battle of Kursk, a game in the Platoon Commander Deluxe series, a game designed by gamers, for gamers to play, by Flying Pig Games.
I'd say that looks pretty cool, folks. I don't know. What do you think? Anyway, there are just a few things I will mention about this Kickstarter for Platoon Commander Deluxe Kursk. And if you were paying attention to the video, you'll notice those counters appeared to be pretty standard. Little bigger than usual, but not as massive as they're going to eventually be. And of course, obviously that was just kind of a prototype that was being shown off. So what I've done is I actually took some counters out of Flying Pig Games Night of Man to kind of give you an idea of the size of the counters. So it's probably going to be a little difficult to see. So I'm going to actually kind of hold it up. I don't know how well in focus it's going to be. This is kind of the size of a standard war game counter. A little tiny bit smaller, but not by much, right? And this is one of those big counters that I think is a little bigger than an inch, just a hair bigger than an inch. But just, I mean, just compare the size. I mean, you see people who are really big war gamers who play like the monster epic games. They actually use tweezers to move around stacks of. This is no joke. If you're a war gamer, you know it, or you probably do it yourself. They use tweezers to move around stacks of counters. Well, folks, you don't need it. You don't need a tweezer to pick this up. And it is a nice thick counter. So I did want to mention that. Also, as far as the Kickstarter goes, we're also looking at, as of this morning when I took a peek. Now, the campaign is funded. The game's coming out. Mark's really good about his Kickstarters coming out. Mark's a cool guy, and I'll mention something about Mark in a minute. But anyway, it is funded. It's only got about a week to go. And when I took a peek today, it is about $3,800 shy of unlocking its next stretch goal. And the stretch goal is pretty cool because the stretch goal includes additional units, so additional armor and infantry, but it's early war and late war. And it's going to include early war and late war scenarios for the Eastern Front. So in reality, if it hits this next Kickstarter stretch goal, it's going to unlock much more than just the battle around Kursk, or the Kursk salient, I guess we would say. So that is something to definitely keep an eye on. As I did mention, the Kickstarter is going to run for about another week. It's got about 7 days to go, and you can score a copy of the game as well as all these stretch goals that are unlocked. And there are a few already for $75. And I do know when this comes out, you're looking at an MSRP of about $100. So you are going to actually save some money just on the core game itself if you back the Kickstarter. Anyway, the last item I did want to share is my best friend, Elliott Miller, is at it again. And this is kind of war game related, so it's appropriate. He takes to his Sopwith camel in this video, and to fight Martians. Yes, that's right, Martians. And Elliott's flying his Sopwith camel, strangely named Lucy. I don't know. But he does have a preview of Tripods and Triplanes, which is currently up on Kickstarter, from Ares Games. So let's take a sneak peek at Elliott's latest video over on the voiceofe.com.
Good show. Things are going great. Here I am, a flying ace in the war to end all wars, and the Allies are finally getting the upper hand. I think this war will be over in a couple of months. I've got to admit, I'm going to miss the feel of the wind in my face, my Sopwith camel feeling like an extension of myself. My beautiful Lucy here has pulled me through more scrapes than I can count. I'm sure going to miss her. Well, I guess I might as well try out this fancy radio the boys installed in her. Those Germans aren't going to shoot themselves down.
Attention Squadron 70 RFC. Attention Squadron 70 RFC. Andover is under attack by an unknown force of extreme power, taking heavy casualties. Request immediate assistance. Repeat, request immediate assistance. Possible attack from the planet Mars. This is not a drill. We believe to be under attack by the forces of the planet Mars.
The planet Mars? What kind of jiggery pokery is this? Well, Lucy, we'd better get over there and take a look.
Oh, yes. Elliott is at it again. If you're not familiar with Elliott's videos that he does for voiceofe.com, every single one, going back a few years now, I think about 3 years, always has like a little opening. And I'm telling you, on this one, Ed would be proud. But check out his video. It's about 16 minutes long. And just in case you don't know, he does his little shtick to open up a video. Sometimes he ends a video with a little tidbit, you know. In fact, this one he does as well. But the rest of it, it's all played straight. He reviews a game or previews a game, so it's pretty straight information. Anyway, so that is all for today's news, and I did want to kind of talk a little bit, a couple of topics I wanted to touch on a little bit before I jump into the unboxing of, oh man, this thing is big and solid. Yes, the American Revolution Tri-Pack from GMT Games. Yesterday, when I was going to do a show, as I had mentioned, I didn't really have any news. There was hardly any news out there. There were a few items. Fantasy Flight Games had some stuff, but you know what? I don't cover a lot of Fantasy Flight for a few different reasons, but one of them is they get plenty of coverage everywhere else. They don't necessarily need my coverage. Not to say other companies that I do talk about need the Gaming Gang or the Daily Dope to be talking about them, but I'm just saying you can go find info from Fantasy Flight Games everywhere. But one of the issues is they don't actually, well, at least before Asmodee acquired them, they didn't send out press releases. It was come to our website, you can see the news. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but there are all these other companies that I'm trying to provide coverage for. You can't, cut us a little slack. And I used to talk to Anton Torres, who I believe is still with Fantasy Flight Games, because he was in charge of like the PR and stuff. I was like, well, just it is what it is. And I'm like, okay. But anyway, I did want to mention that there were some items out there of stuff that seemed to be pretty interesting. Yet when I went to go find out more news from their websites for these companies, their websites are simply a mess. And I'll give you a great example. And I don't mean to pick on Rio Grande Games, but they are a prime example. Now, for years, the Rio Grande Games website has been garbage. I mean, it's terrible. So it looked like they had actually done kind of an upgrade on their website, yet there's no information. I don't know if they're just in the middle of revamping it or something like that, but there was nothing there. So there was an announcement for a game called Epoch that looked kind of interesting, but the news came from like a secondary source, which I don't like using because a lot of times they're wrong. Great example of that is all the different websites out there who are telling people that Netflix was going to release The Punisher in October. And interestingly enough, I had predicted November 17th, which was their release date. All the while everybody, oh, it's October, it's October, it's October. And I was like, no, it's not October. But if I had followed that, then I'd have been wrong like everybody else. But so I go to Rio Grande's website. There isn't even an image of the game. It's in their database. It has the title of the game and it says, this game is perfect. So simply, it's just something. I didn't look at other games, honestly, but it's just like a holding text or something like that, probably until they got around to actually putting the info in there. And it's sort of like, but your announcement for this new game is out there on another website. Granted, it's just a blurb, doesn't really say anything. When do you think it's a pretty good idea to actually tell people about the game? Maybe they'd like to order it. And this is something I see a lot in the tabletop gaming industry. Not so much role-playing games. Usually role-playing games, those companies, they want to give you a lot of information. They want to get your juices flowing so you can go and you can buy the book or get the PDF, what have you. But I do see that a lot of these like tabletop gaming companies, and some of them are big. I mean, Rio Grande Games is still considered a pretty big company. Not run very well, but they're still a major sponsor for the Origins Game Fair as well as Gen Con. But there's all these websites out there where they don't want to give you any information about their games. And it just drives me nuts. And I'm sure as a consumer, people out there think the same way. I know a lot of these companies think everyone goes to Board Game Geek. That, you know, that is the one stop everyone goes to. I hate to break it to them, there are a lot of people I know who do not go to Board Game Geek because they don't like the experience for whatever reasons. I'm not going to knock BGG. Once again, it is what it is. That's a website that's looked the same forever. But I don't understand why these companies can't just invest a little bit of time into sharing more info or any info about the games that they're hoping you're going to purchase. It's a real pet peeve I've got. So even for an example now, Gale Force 9 games, that Doctor Who Time of the Daleks game, seems like that would be pretty cool. And I'm pretty sure they had a preview of it at Gen Con. I seem to recall spotting it. I didn't get a close look. But it's just, what, 2 paragraphs? That's not telling me anything about the game. So if you're someone who runs a gaming company, or you have a friend who runs a gaming company, or you've got any sort of connection with gaming companies out there, let them know. They will get more and more sales if they simply sit there and provide more information to the buyer to incent them to purchase the game, as opposed to just waiting for someone to review it on Board Game Geek or a website like the Gaming Gang. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, so that was a pet peeve. That was something I was going to mention yesterday, that I ran across a few things that kind of sparked my interest, so I would have shared news. But if I can't find information about it from that website, from that company, oh well. So the other thing before I get into the unboxing, first off, I guess it's news, but I covered these games over the past few episodes. Do want to point out, I found out today from Calliope Games that they have 3 titles that are coming out that look pretty cool. Shutterbug, Ancestry, and Capital City, and they're all very family-friendly games. I didn't have an official release date, so I wasn't sure if they would be in stores for the holiday season, so people could put them on their wish lists. I did find out just before I went live that yes, they will be in stores next week. So you can get Capital City, Ancestry, and Shutterbug all next week. Usually Wednesday's release day. Tuesday, Wednesday. So there's that. The other thing I want to mention is it's Wargame Wednesday. I'm going to focus on wargaming or conflict simulation-ish sorts of titles. And if you're a longtime wargamer or if you're new to the hobby, there is the graying of the hobby. And it has been a topic of discussion for years now. I am 50 years old, turned 50 in October, and I've been gaming for a long, long time. And many wargamers are getting up there in age. When I went to Consim World Expo last out in Tempe, Arizona, and it's been a couple of years since I went, but last time I went, I got to be honest, I was one of the younger people there. So I am happy to start seeing some companies, and GMT is a great example, Flying Frog Games, as well as Tiny Battle Publishing, which are both Mark H. Walker companies, are doing things a little bit differently. Now, they're still doing conflict simulation games, but they don't look like your typical old school SPI/Avalon Hill sorts of hex encounter, NATO symbols sort of games. They're kind of sprucing them up a bit. And I think that's very, very important because there are still plenty of folks out there who are interested in historical games, historical war games, who are just kind of turned off by the 1980s, 1990s kind of graphic style and just same old approach that some other companies continue to utilize. Even though they've got good games, they're not jumping out to new players. So I did want to mention, I'm very happy to see there are a handful of companies that do mainly focus on conflict simulation. Victory Point Games, another good example. There's quite a few games from them that are, I would consider, war games that don't look or play like your traditional old school game. So I'm very, very happy to see that. And speaking of Mark H. Walker, if you have not seen my interview with Mark at this past Origins, it's pretty funny. Mark H. Walker is a cool cat. I always look to help promote Flying Pig Games as well as Tiny Battle Publishing. Got a lot of fun stuff out there. Sometimes it flies under people's radar, but he's a cool guy. So check out the interview. It's pretty funny. Mark's a pretty funny character. So anyway, I know we've got people who want to see the big unboxing, and I'm telling you, this game is big. Let me get it in frame here. This is a very, very heavy game. It is the tri-pack of Battles of the American Revolution, Guilford, Saratoga, and Brandywine. These games were actually released previously individually from GMT. And they are currently, of course, out of print. That's why they were bringing these out in this massive box. I have to be honest, I had not seen the original releases. And I do get quite a lot of the GMT releases, so I'm going forward, you're gonna be able to see them too. In fact, on Friday, I'm breaking out Welcome to Centerville. I'm going to do an unboxing of that. Might actually do a quick review on Friday too, depending on how that works. In case you're curious also, and if this is the first time you've stopped by to take a peek at the Daily Dope, very conversational. We're going to kind of look through all this. I might go off on a tangent and tell a story. I guess it's pretty obvious already that that's how I approach this. So if you're the sort of person where it's, you're not looking to learn about like my best friends or people I know or thoughts and opinions on the hobby, this probably isn't going to be your show. So anyway, I am actually kind of tired of looking at this guy's Nazi crack. So, I'm really considering not streaming on Twitch anymore because I tend to get some dopes popping up. I guess they got nothing better to do. I guess there aren't any, let's just type some stuff in here and push them off. I was going to say, I guess they were disappointed they didn't find someone, a young woman, bussy young woman, scantily dressed playing games, so they swung by to say Nazis. Yeah, okay. I have this, my keyboard kind of set at a weird angle here too, so. Okay, there we go. That's better. All right. So anyway, like always goofballs out there. So yeah, I'm even considering not even having a chat, or at least not having the chat on the screen. Because so far there hasn't been. Granted, I know this show's airing in the middle of the afternoon when a lot of people are at work or at school, but I haven't seen a lot of interaction with the chat, and yeah, and that's fine. I don't expect people to jump in. I certainly don't expect people to just jump in and say Nazis. Okay, thanks for the comment. So we have the tri-pack Battles of the American Revolution. Let's flip this on over and carefully lay it down so it doesn't bounce this all over the place. So this box does contain Saratoga, 1777, Brandywine, 1777, as well as Guilford, 1781. And there are actually, it says it's a tri-pack, but it really does include 4, count them 4, battles. And the game is medium complexity. GMT rates it about a 4. And GMT tends to give a lot more credit to people, or at least me. Usually they're 4s. I find it to be about a 5. Sometimes they go a little high, but so they consider it the lower end of their medium complexity. And it is pretty highly suitable for solitaire play. And these are for 2 players. Get that opened up there. And each turn represents an hour. So not each turn takes an hour to play. Each turn in the Battles of the American Revolution system represent an hour of time on the battlefield. Okay. I have this zoomed out as far as I can go with the way I've got this all set up. So if we'll kind of try to go, I can lift stuff up, get a better look at it. The camera autofocus. Boy, brand new games are always tough to get opened up. Especially when I'm trying not to have the camera bouncing around. Okay, so we have the series rulebook. And these are going to be the core rules that are going to run through all 4 battles effectively. This is not unusual to see if you're not overly familiar with GMT Games. Usually with a lot of their game series that they have, outside of like Coin always has their own rule books. The counterinsurgency line of awesome games from GMT. But some of the ones that usually come in sort of the smaller boxes, and when I say smaller, I just mean not so deep, they'll have the series rules, and then each one should have another book which will discuss specific rules or mechanics that will be brought into play for either that specific game release or for various different battles of that game release. So we've got the introduction, talking about the components, terminology, how to win, sequence and play outline, initiative and stacking, zones of control and movement, rifle fire, defensive artillery fire. I will point out that the Battles of the American Revolution series is more traditional grognard fare. So when I was talking about the graying of the hobby and how some of the companies are changing things up a little bit, this wouldn't necessarily be an example of a title that I would point out as being vastly different than what we used to see back in, let's say, late 80s, early 90s. Doesn't mean that they're bad, don't get me wrong. Plus, with this series here, we're looking at the battles aren't going to take forever to play. So we've got the exclusive rulebook for Brandywine. So this was originally the 2nd volume in the series. So it's going to talk about combat units, getting ready to play, how to win, rule variations with stacking, strategic movement. Talking about initiative there. Some special units. Count Pulaski. I remember when I was in high school, the city of Chicago made Count Pulaski Day. It was Pulaski Day. And I used to live right off of a fairly major street in Chicago named Pulaski. And of course, almost no one knew what the street was named after, nor what the holiday was about. And of course, back then in the day, you couldn't just go jump on Wikipedia or the Google. You couldn't surf the interwebs to find out what is Pulaski Day. We found out eventually. I think it was on the news or something. So we've got Brandywine Creek, an intelligence variant, and then we've got some scenarios. How's flank attack, short campaign scenario. Taking a look at some of the counters. How's column worksheet. And an abbreviated sequence of play. Then we've got Saratoga, the turning point of the American Revolution. Yes, folks, it was the turning point. And for those of you who would be interested in a game like this, if you're looking for games about the American Revolution and so on and so forth, don't be freaked out by the length of the rule book, because the reality is GMT 95% of the time, and I can guarantee you in these are second editions, I'm sure there's been some revisions, that you're going to see most of the time GMT has really presented the rules clearly. Now, of course, granted, if you're a family gamer or a Euro gamer, then just this booklet here with the scenario or series specific rules for Saratoga, they're probably, oh my gosh, look at all that, look at all of this. But the cool thing you see with GMT Games, and I'm going to mention this just about every time I bust out one of their historical games, they give you just loads of background. So this is all about the Battle of Saratoga, or I should say the Saratoga campaign. So there's Saratoga. Then we've got Guilford Courthouse and Utah Springs. Is it Utah? I had heard it one time. I think it was a documentary or something I was watching, and I could have swore they called it Utah Springs. Utah? I don't know. All right, so we've got the special rules here. Then we've got the Guilford Courthouse historical scenario, order of battle. The Utah Springs. Looting table. And a historical scenario here. Then we've got the counters and historical info. Yep, war comes to the south. Like I said, lots of cool background information. Those who, oh no, the book got dinged. Well, that's all right. Okay, now we're going to move into the heavy stuff. So we've got the counters, and let's try to get these up a bit. I'm going to give the camera a little bit of time to sort of autofocus so you can get a better look. So I see we've got, this is for Saratoga. We've got the British regulars, plus any of their special units. We've got the colonists, the Continental Army, as well as militia units here. Ammo depleted, rally on me. Momentum counters. I have not played any of the American Revolution series, so these are all new to me. I wish I had someone locally who was really into wargaming. I have a hard time getting like games like this. Games that are really much more traditional hex and counter sorts of games. Kind of have a difficult time. Even Elliott, who I play quite a lot of stuff with, it's just time constraints too. If you can't get together on a regular basis with your friends or a friend to play, then when you do have an opportunity to get together, you want to try to get a lot of gaming in. And especially if it's a game that they're not familiar with, say like the Battles of the American Revolution series, a lot of times people don't want to spend a lot of time learning how to play a game if it's going to be something fairly in-depth. But then on the other hand, one thing that I love about especially GMT games is they're not impossible to wrap your heads around, even if you're new to the hobby, because the rules are presented really nicely, and it kind of really cuts down on the length of time it takes to learn how to play. Now, granted, GMT does usually post their rules online at gmtgames.com. I don't know if they do it for every game, but a lot of the games, they have a living rule system, so they can sit there and make revisions or correct errors and things like that. And you can just grab the PDF of the rules to replace the ones you've got. But still, it's sometimes asking a little much for someone, especially if they're not necessarily a big war gamer, to read through a 25-page rule book that's not just graphics. So we've got the replacement sheet. So we've got Germantown, Pensacola, Savannah, Guilford Courthouse. I wonder, it's for all 8 volumes. So, okay. So so these are some of the revisions. Hey, cool. So I guess I would take a stab, maybe depending on the popularity of the tri-pack, that we might see GMT sort of put together, like maybe volumes 4 through 6. Because I think these were the first 3. Okay, so we've got, let me grab a sip here. Let me wet the old whistle. So we also have the player aid card. This is for the Brandywine entry in the series. I keep wanting to just say battle, but a lot of it is also there's other scenarios. It's not necessarily only that scenario that's in the game, and we noticed that as we were kind of flipping through the books. So there are 2 player aids for Brandywine. Got movement, leader summary, victory point schedule, tactical matrix, close combat table, ranged fire. Another cool thing that I will mention as far as the 3 titles that are included in the tri-pack, these were all pretty evenly matched, and there was really there wasn't a lot of trickery involved. A lot of times with a lot of historical battles and campaigns, they can be difficult for a game designer to actually, I guess we would say, game, because of different circumstances, that it's a little difficult in a board game to reflect. You can't sit there and have, oh, well, we already planned ahead of time that the militia is going to break and start skedaddling towards the rear, so that the British regulars think, oh yeah, they're running, so let's chase them. We've routed them, and that's all part of the plan. That's kind of difficult to game. It's like I see companies come out with, Alamo games, and I don't understand that. It's sort of like, okay, so the Texicans are not going to be able to win. I mean, everybody knows that, right? I mean, it's impossible for that to take place. I mean, they're only outnumbered, what, like 100, 200 to 1? So then it becomes, okay, well, so how long can the Alamo hold out? I don't know. To me, that's not much of a game. But anyway, back to my original thought. It's pretty cool that these are pretty evenly matched. So it isn't as if, oh, great, I got to take the Americans in this, where they lose and there's really almost no way for you to win, or the Brits. So these are just the different player aids. This is the Saratoga one I just had popped up there. And pretty standard. It's just the terrain effects, ranged fire, damage, morale, tactical matrix again, victory point schedule. Don't know how big of a change we've got as far as from each sheet to the next. Kind of looks like the matrix, close combat tables are identical. But GMT just went the extra mile. There's probably a little bit of info, like, okay, like the victory point schedule is probably different for each of the titles in the series, but a lot of this stuff is going to still be the same. It's just GMT kind of going the extra mile and giving you player aids for each of these systems. So here we got Guilford Courthouse. And the unpronounceable spring, well, it's pronounceable. I just not sure if it's Utah or Utah, because I'm guessing it's an Indian word. So here's the cool thing about this new release, and that is mounted maps. I do know. Okay, all right, I take that back. I can't say I 100% know positively, but I am really, really confident in saying these original releases had paper maps. And paper maps are okay, and especially if you've got a nice clear piece of plexiglass that you can lay on top of the paper map to keep it flat and hopefully in place. But there's just no replacing the mounted maps, mounted boards, whatever you'd like to consider it. I'm gonna take a look at those last. Of course, we've got the handy dandy GMT baggies, which will hold all the counters. Got 2 10-sided dice. And then we've got the tactical cards. So let me get these open. There we go. I do want to mention that space is at a premium here, so as far as the mounted maps, I might not be able to, I know I'm not going to be able to show them off completely, but I will try to show them off a little bit. The one issue that I tend to find with mounted maps like this, because these are heavy maps, gotta be really, really careful when you're unfolding them or folding them back up so that the weight of it doesn't tear it. So I want to be very careful with that. So that's why I'm saying I may not be able to show you the entire maps for these. I do believe they're dual-sided. So these are the tactics cards. And the players utilize these. So for an example, we've got frontal assault, turn flank, attack echelon, commit reserve, withdraw, refuse flank, skirmish, stand fast. These come into play to give a bit more variety than just, okay, so we've got these counters, we've got the combat results tables, and we're just rolling dice. So that is one of the cool aspects with the American Revolution series. And of course, it's going to show, okay, based on, well, one player, obviously, this is the Continental Army's deck. Continental player. The Rebels, as the British would say. There's a really interesting book. Gosh, now I can't remember the title or who the author is. That came out not too long ago. And it's the American Revolution, but it's from the British point of view. It was really good. It was really interesting. But anyway, so here we see the Brits have the same. And as I get closer in, let me give it a second to kind of try to focus a little bit. You can see there's various results. So based upon what you're playing this card, what is your opponent doing? What are the tactics your opponent is using? And then that's where that tactical matrix comes in. So, okay, so we've got the cards. Let's see what we've got here. Let's get the maps open. And these maps are usually kind of a tight squeeze in these bags, so another thing to be careful with, because you don't want to kind of tear the edge. Okay. Yep, see, we can tell already that they're dual-sided. So just kind of taking a look here, kind of give you an idea of the graphics. So you see those are the woods, the roads, rivers. Each location here. So we're even seeing that it's the school. I just saw individual owners' names. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit more. Hey, that's my house. Okay, so obviously that is Guilford Courthouse, Cliff House. What am I thinking? Okay, and then this is the Yata Springs. And as we can see with the board here, you've got a terrain key. We've got a turn record track. I'll take liberty as opposed to death, please. Thanks, Alex. Army morale track. So you're going to use both the Americans as well as the British. Counters there. Captured units. Eliminated units. And then I believe what we're looking at is the rest is pretty much the map. Yep. Let's open that up a little bit. Because you already have the player aids. The Wantoot Plantation. So as far as just a lot of things that you have to track on the board, because you have the player aids, all you're really looking at is, you've got the morale track, turn records, captured units, eliminated units, and what was the other one? There was like one other thing. All right, well, I don't know. Flip it out there. There we go. No, that was it. Oh, yeah, the terrain key. I knew there was one other thing I was forgetting. Okay, so I'm just going to put that in here. I'll bag it later. That out of the way. Then let's take a look at, it's going to be Saratoga and Brandywine on this map. Come on. All right. So as we can see, let's try to get this. It's always funny too because it's along the lines of opening up a puzzle. Sometimes with these maps. Okay, let's get Saratoga out here. So once again, got a train key running down the side. We can tell for the Battle of Saratoga, much more dense forest, woods, whatever you want to consider it. The Hudson River there. Army morale may never exceed 15. Okay. And then it's kind of interesting because you can see the little tweaks that were made. Now this is the Battle of Brandywine. You can see some of the tweaks that were made with these maps, not necessarily really graphically, but just layout. Like, okay, everything else has, the turn track up top. Well, suddenly now we've got this kind of on the bottom, or actually we have the turn track running down the side, and the morale down on the bottom. So we can take a closer look over here. There we go. Let's kind of give you a better peek at this. Let's turn right around the right way. That usually helps a little bit. So, all right. Battle Hill. Nice. Yeah, once again, Widow Davis's house. Look, it's the Widow Davis's house. So we've got the two dual-sided mounted maps. All right, let's do this. Let's plop in those bags and the 10-sided dice. See, even the maps, just dropping the maps in, they're heavy. They made that camera jump. We've got loads and loads of player aids. We've got the replacement sheet talking about what units have been added, subtracted, or modified from the previous editions. We've got all the counters. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 counter sheets, all dual-sided. Guilford Courthouse and the Indian Springs, Saratoga, Brandywine, series-specific rule books, and the general series rule book, and the other bag for the map. And that, ladies and gents, is what we find in the tri-pack Battles of the American Revolution from my friends over at GMT. This is out now. This is available in stores. And I do want to point out, a lot of times GMT titles, depends on where you live. There are some gaming stores that they might get a title, a copy of a GMT title. And if you're not the first one in the door to snag it, well, you're out of luck. You got to order online. And let me kind of just switch up that a little bit. And the other thing about GMT I should mention is they do a P500. A lot of people are familiar with it's like a pre-order system. You don't get charged right away, but what it is, it's really done to determine the interest in a possible title coming out, and they call it a P500. So GMT basically has said that, well, if they get 500 pre-orders, so you give your charge card ahead of time, but you don't get charged. If they get 500 pre-orders, then they're going to go forward with the printing Reality is it's normally about 800. So, but you can go to GMT Games and, of course, order any of their fine, I shouldn't say fine, most of them are amazingly awesome titles if they're still in stock and available directly from them. You can also, go out to an online retailer and things like that. But one of the cool things about going to GMT and checking out their website is they're very upfront on, hey, this is what's been added to the P500. This is what's going on with the development of XYZ game or ABC game. And it's pretty cool. And then you can take a look to see, all right, well, what's going on the P500? What do they got? Oh, hey, that sounds like a cool game. And I do want to mention, it's not always just all conflict simulations either. Thunder Alley is an awesome, stock car racing game, designed by Jeff Horger from GMT. It's fantastic, man. It is a blast. And I'll tell you, NASCAR racing ain't no war game. So they do have quite a few different kinds of games. Welcome to Centerville is going to be an example on Friday we're going to take a peek at. So anyway, that is the unboxing for the tri-pack of the Battles of the Revolution from GMT Games. And I wanted to say, hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me once again. So sorry about the disaster yesterday. It was out of my hands, but still. I am ironing stuff out slowly and surely. So you notice as far as kind of changing the little scenes around and stuff like that, that's a little bit smoother and everything. So if you happen to like the Daily Dope, if you like the video on YouTube, be sure to give it a thumbs down. If you don't like it, feel free. You can give it a thumbs. I said if you like it, give it a thumbs up is what I meant to say. If you kind of dig it, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it and give it a thumbs down, do me a favor and just comment. Real quick comment, say, hey, maybe what you don't especially like. I know, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I get that, and neither is my approach. But anyway, be sure if you're not checking out the Daily Dope, watching it, be sure to go over to thegaminggang.com. I know a lot of our YouTube subscribers don't realize that about 90% of this stuff that the Gaming Gang is doing is on the website. We don't just do video stuff. So if you're not peeking at thegaminggang.com once in a while, you're really missing out. And of course, be sure to spread the word on social media. Follow the Gaming Gang over on Facebook or Twitter, or we're on Pinterest, Google Plus, Tumblr. We're kind of all over the place. Anyway, so tomorrow, and I don't have the box handy. You may have noticed, wow, look at that big empty spot. Well, that is where Vengeance from Greenbrier Games was sitting, and I was going to review it yesterday. And before I wrap up, it's kind of a funny story. So if you've seen it, or if you've gone to the Greenbrier Games website, this game is jam-packed with stuff. I only have so much space that I can utilize on this table with the camera. So I sat here, got everything set up where I could at least show off a majority of the important things to the game for me to do the review. And then, of course, had the issue where, Windows did the update, ended up not doing the show. So sort of okay, tomorrow I am going to review it. And if you're familiar with Vengeance in any sort of way, it is a game where the player has been wronged. It's for 2 to 4 players, but it's straight out of kind of like a revenge movie, sort of Death Wish kind of thing. So you take your vengeance out on the bad guys who have wronged you. And I will give you a hint. The game is not what people expect it to be. I'll leave you with that. Anyway, once again, I am Jeff McAleer. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow, and until then, enjoy the rest of your hump day.